Hi and welcome back to the What's on Cornwall series here on Dragonborn Industries, and I'm joined by Matt from both Wizards and Warlords, which is a gaming TTRPG gaming group here in Cornwall, but also from the Forgotten Realms Wiki, which is probably where I'm going to begin today's conversations. But it's great to have somebody with quite some notes when it comes to like learning about lore of D&D here in the studio. How are you, Matt?
I'm good. A little bit sweaty because I had to run up a hill to get here.
For anybody else who's watching this on a different day, because you're all going to be watching this on a different day, it's fucking humid out there.
Yeah.
It is wet, it is humid, and like even I'm like, okay, it's and I didn't have to steam it up a train station hill to try and catch a train. But yeah, welcome to the studio, and I'm glad that we can actually get you in and get chatting to you, because obviously, like, the aim of this series is to try and chat to as many other nerds in Cornwall and try and chat to as many different businesses, shops. We're talking like to content creators, to people like you who have the wiki, to people who run clubs, people like other miniature painters who have their own socials and stuff. We're just trying to showcase as much of Cornwall as we can, because everything is so far apart from each other, and that it's just hard to find your little niches here and there. And obviously we don't know where this will come out in the series, but obviously we've been chatting to a few different clubs, a few different shops, and yeah, it's just great to finally get you in the studio as well. My first question then, really, as we kind of dive into this, is about the Forgotten Realms Wiki, because you are basically the spearhead for the Forgotten Realms Wiki, which I've used a ton in my own D&D campaign settings and stuff like that. So, for anybody out there who doesn't necessarily know, what is that wiki?
So, it's like Wikipedia, but for the Forgotten Realms campaign setting of D&D. We have articles that run the gamut of all sorts of lore, monster lore, NPC lore, location lore, magic item lore, just the history of the world, how it links to other worlds in the D&D multiverse. And yeah, we have been doing this for about 20 years now.
Wow. See, I think that's really impressive that, like, one, it's been going for so long on the internet, which is just a shit show of, like, things come and go.
Yeah.
But, like, the fact that you've like really committed to this, and it's not just like, oh cool, this is my opinion on it. Like, you literally dive into all of the publications, all of the books. We're talking like novellums right the way through to source material, directly from
all the way back to Ed Greenwood's first articles in Dragon magazine.
Exactly. And like, so you are absorbing that content and then going, right, okay, so if that's this, then putting it onto different pages. And I'm going to put a link in the description below for anybody who hasn't been to the Forgotten Realms Wiki, because you really should. And I know that we were chatting before about things like the D&D Wiki and about all the other different settings wikis, because I do use them. And for years, when I first started playing D&D, I was like, oh, can I trust that my players are going to D&D Wiki or Forgotten Realms Wiki? I don't know. But actually, like, looking at like the Forgotten Realms Wiki, particularly because that's the one that you spearhead, it's like, fucking hell, that's so factually perfect for like factually perfect for a fictional thing. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like you've actually done the research, and it's not just like you've gone, whatever, this is my opinion. You've actually gone, no, this is here is, and then to put like the publications in and stuff like that. It's really, really impressive. How did that begin? Like, how did you start it and go, this is what I want to do. I want to put this information out there for everybody.
So I have been playing games in the Forgotten Realms since the original Baldur's Gate game in 1998.
Wow.
I started playing pen and paper D&D at secondary school with some mates. We moved on from Warhammer. We started off as like a Warhammer social group, and then just completely switched to D&D.
Yeah.
And I've just adored everything that the Forgotten Realms has had to say.
I quite like the Forgotten Realms as well.
Yeah.
It's so yeah, like, before I tangent onto that, like, obviously, so you started off as like, I think like a lot of people, like playing Warhammer and or absorbing that kind of content, and then going, well, actually, you know, I want to do something different. I want to find my sort of niche. And then you found Dungeons and Dragons, which again, a lot of us find at different times. And I found mine quite late in life. Mine was like, I wasn't until it was like 2016, 2017 that I was really like, all right then, I'll give it a go. And I was like, oh fuck, I love this. Like, this is the best thing ever, and couldn't do anything but absorb that content. But I too started with like war games and stuff, where you think that, like, you know, that's kind of like all there is out there. for anybody who's just getting into D&D and is probably like, oh, I don't know where to begin, what would your suggestion for that be?
Well, for 5th edition at least, the starter sets.
Yeah.
They're good. They ease you in gently. Although Lost Mines of Phandelver does have that one bugbear encounter in the cave that's a bit tough for like level 1, level 2 players.
I think it's tough for a new GM. That's what I think, because you're like, oh, cool, this should be balanced. I've just killed them.
Yeah.
Fuck. It's just like, okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think, and actually, because obviously Phandelver is part of the Forgotten Realms.
Mm-hmm.
And did you guys start with the starter sets? But like, obviously, like 98 starter sets, not the 5th edition ones. So we're talking, what, 3?
When
98, 3rd edition or 4th?
98 was still 2nd edition.
Was it?
Yeah.
There you go. Every day's at school, even I'm learning something.
Just 2000 when the 3rd edition came in, early 2000. Although they did release some content in late 99. But yeah, 98 was still 2nd edition.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought 3rd edition was older than that because I thought Pathfinder was older than that, which I'm assuming it's not because...
Paizo was still making Dragon Magazine at the time.
Yeah. There you go. So and this is why I love chatting to people like yourself who know more than me. Like I can then learn and absorb this kind of content. So obviously that's a great place for people to start. And then so you started with 2nd edition then, and then where was your first adventure with 2nd edition? How did that come about? What was played?
The only 2nd edition game I ever actually played was the Baldur's Gate video game.
Oh, okay.
Icewind Dale as well.
Yeah. Fucking love that setting.
Yeah. But when we started playing pen and paper, it was 3.0.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because 3.5 hadn't quite come out
No.
yet. And so we just had one guy, Hamish, still in contact with him to this day. He's back up in Birmingham where I used to live. And he just made everything up as he went along.
Nice. Full homebrew then.
Yeah.
That's pretty, really cool. So is it just a case of like grab the DMG, grab the core rule books, and just like, right,
exactly.
we'll go from there. Which is a lot of D&D, and you know, a lot of people like my first campaign setting was this homebrew thing where I was like, okay, well actually I think somebody gave me the Waterdeep module book for 5e, and I was like, well, I read through it, and I was like, okay, well I like certain bits of this, and I'll take those bits and I'll implement them into my world, but apart from that I went homebrew. But then obviously, like, going from homebrew, then you found the Forgotten Realms setting to create the D&D wiki. Yeah. Where did that start?
So, like I said, this was about 20 years ago, 2003, 2004. I was a contributor, because I wasn't the person who started up the Forgotten Realms Wiki.
Oh, okay.
That was a guy who used the name Drist, which is, of course...
Drist Owen. Yeah.
He gave up on the project, though.
It's a lot to do.
Yeah, because it was just a couple of us, and he obviously didn't have the time to devote to it. And so I thought this project needs to be continued, and so I applied to the host staff, the site host staff, to adopt it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And they approved it, and from there
did.
it went in. So, at this point, were you already absorbing... essentially Forgotten Realms content then? Were you
yeah.
Like, so what kind of content were you absorbing at that point to then take it on?
So at that point, I had got the Forgotten Realms campaign setting book, as well as the generic 3.5, 3.0 books. My mother had got me a couple of Drist de Werden books from the library. Yeah. And I devoured those.
Is it Salvatore is the name of the author?
Bob Salvatore.
Yeah, and it's they're good. You're like, yeah. Don't carry on.
Yeah. And so that was where I started. That was my original source material, and I just built up a library as the years went on. And the most recent book I got was Salvatore's latest novel, Lolth's Warrior.
Yeah.
And I finished reading that a couple months ago. And I'm looking to get the new stuff that's coming out next year, the campaign setting and the player's guide for the new Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, as we move into 2024 and into, is it Strahd's Heir? Strahd's Heir has been announced as the first novellum?
It's not the first one.
Is it not?
They've had a bunch of others.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple of prequels to Honor Among Thieves.
Oh, a book form?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
There was also another novel that came out recently, which was written by the same lady who wrote the Ahsoka novels for Star Wars.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so this will be the fourth novel.
Oh, cool.
Strahd's Heirs.
That's very good, because I didn't know a thing about those. And again, for somebody who like, I understand that I'm busy and that I try and absorb content where I can, but I can't always do that. So like, even then, to know that like I'd seen that Strahd's Heir is coming out, and I thought that was the first novella, but actually you're saying that like, no, there are 3 more that you've missed. And I'm like, oh, okay, I will go and like absorb content for that then, because that's awesome. So like, where are you? Do you get? Is this like information that you get as it comes out? Or do you get like a little sneak behind the curtain sometimes?
Occasionally, we get some previews.
That's cool.
But it's just when the people working on it reach out to us more than anything.
Because you have had not just the books, you've had other big reach outs, really, haven't you?
Yeah, we have.
Would you like to chat about that?
So, the Honor Amongst Thieves movie, we were the cutting edge of reporting on that.
That's awesome.
We had people on set giving us information.
Did you get to go?
No.
Oh, gutted.
It was being filmed in Ireland, so...
It's still there! You can throw a stone at it from here.
I'm poor. Leave me alone.
Yeah, we live in Cornwall. You either have to have a second holiday home or you're poor.
Yeah.
It's I preach. I know that feeling.
But yeah, we'd been covering it since before it was officially announced.
That's awesome.
Because we had been getting information about it as it was coming out from advanced sources, before the movie had a name, before the script had been finalised.
Oh, cool.
Like, Honor Amongst Thieves was going to be a radically different movie to start with.
And you guys, no, I was going to say, you guys changed all of that. But, so did they get in touch with you so that they could be like, hey, look, we've got this movie, we're writing the script. If we do this, is that a no-no? Or is it more a case that they were like, look, can we send you bits, do you look at it and then tell us if we're being idiots?
We are aware that the script writers and the producers were referencing the wiki for lore. There are a couple of really cool Easter eggs if you know your stuff in the movie. But they didn't reach out to us until the time came to market the movie. And then we were directly contacted, because we've actually got a member of fandom who is a staff member working for us.
Nice.
And so we've got a direct line to the site hosts, and we can get that information, that offer, and vice versa. We can reach out to them and ask them for stuff whenever we need.
That's very, very cool. And but that must have been very cool for them to be to like know that they were referencing, and then for them to be like, hey, look, we've got this going on. You know, what do you think? And like, so does that mean that you got a credit in the movie then?
No.
Oh, gutted.
They didn't even credit Ed Greenwood.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bit of a shame. But I guess because it falls under the... Was it under Hasbro at that point?
So it's under Entertainment One, which was Hasbro's film and TV division.
Yeah.
Which they've now divested themselves from.
Because I imagine that at that point they would only have to reference themselves as a credit then if like they own the IP that then was once Ed Greenwood's. Bit of a shame to not be like, look, here's the original like lore designer, because Ed Greenwood is somebody who's come up with pretty much all of it. Like the start, like he is like one of the main writers for the Forgotten Realms.
I mean, I've seen the amount of Realms lore that has never been published. It's 2 storage containers in Ontario, Canada, near his house. You go in, it's just wall-to-wall papers.
Might want to put that down on some digital format.
Yes.
2 containers, they get very, very moist in the winter.
Yeah.
That's wild. Because you do actually have ties to Ed Greenwood as well, don't you?
Yes.
Tell us more about those.
So, Ed Greenwood, he's told me personally that he uses the wiki as a reference aid for his own setting. Yeah.
That's cool. It's like you're in touch with him.
Yeah,
That's fucking cool.
We have partnered up with him and his Patreon partner, Ivan, to record everything that he is putting out on his Patreon.
That's amazing.
The new Realms lore, the exclusive new Realms lore that he's putting out. And I'm sure you'll put a link to his channel and the Patreon.
You give me all of the links, and we'll put that all in the description below. And that is there. Like, go down to the descriptions, find those links, and go across because, like, Ed Greenwood, big name, big name drop. But no, carry on. Like, obviously they. You've got this exclusive access to this new and exclusive lore. And is that, like, obviously, like, it's a Patreon, so is that, like, new exclusive lore that is only now to do with him, or is that still being used by Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro / Entertainment One / all the conglomerates that then come with being a major corporation and having the monopoly?
So, Wizards of the Coast's lore policy is anything that isn't published by them, and anything that was published before the 2014 Player's Handbook is non-canon.
Yeah, new editions and everything like that, changing it all up.
However, they are free to draw upon the ideas
with the open gaming license.
And publish them in their products if they want to.
So essentially, so Ed Greenwood is now like, he's done all of this lore before. It's now going, well, actually, no. Now that we're separate, we're kind of like doing this. You're doing that, but we are allowed to. So therefore, we are.
The last product that he published was specifically published under their fan content policy.
It's because the OGL debacle was something strange.
Yeah,
like that was a real. Because I shit myself like when it happened, because I was like, I'm literally called Dragonborn Industries. My entire thing hinges up the fact that they own the IP for like the word Dragonborn, and I was like, oh my god, I could lose everything right now. And luckily, obviously, it didn't go that way. And win nothing, win nobody. And like it's I think when people are like, if you earn over $70,000 or more, we can just take it. And it was like, what? What? And I was like, I don't think we're ever going to earn that kind of money here. But like,
I mean, it would just be Paizo really earning that much money. Maybe Critical Role as well.
And that was the interesting thing that I saw from the OGL. And it's interesting that we're still having OGL topic discussions this far on, because it did leave a dirty taste in the mouth. It left a real horrible taste of like going, oh, we've loved this system for years, and like there are people like yourself who've been playing it for 20 years, and that open gaming license is like, going, you know what? We love this so much, and it's all about the community, which is really important to me, let alone the rest of the players out there and people who write and do things. And to go, use it, please. Like, take our stuff and build, this amazing stuff with it. And then for Hasbro to go, and back to ours again. And obviously, like, the rest of the community went, fuck off, we're not doing that. But, like, it is interesting that a year later, like, we're still, even more than a year now. It's been, like, a year and a bit, and it's, like, 2 years. And we're, like, still going...
Well, Wizards of the Coast just had a new round of layoffs.
Just before Christmas.
Again.
Yeah. It was like, oh my god. And it's like, where does Wizards end? Where does Hasbro start? And it was like this really interesting time to be, especially like, the original question being like, how scared were you? And like, what was that like for you? Because I shit myself and we're nobody. Whereas you are the Forgotten Realms Wiki. They fucking own that IP. So it's like, what was that like for you having to live through the OGL debacle?
So we have had policies in place for a very long time to try and avoid the ire of Wizards lawyers. We have a strict no crunch policy. So
for anybody out there who doesn't know, do you want to describe that? What no crunch is?
So crunch is game mechanics.
Yeah.
It's things that are integral to playing the game mechanically.
Yeah.
Whereas the opposite is fluff, which is what we deal with, which is lore stories and what have you.
Yeah, that's really important, because that is everything that the OGL is dependent on, is crunch. Is that they own the IP for things like Beholder, Gelatinous Cube, stuff. Well, no, not actually Gelatinous Cube, but Mind Flayers, Mimics, stuff like that. That's their content. If you draw it, if you use those words, that's theirs. Dragonborn, it's theirs. Whereas fluff is like the bits that surround that then you can play flavor, and you can take the idea of a humanoid dragon, because you can't IP a shape and stuff like that, and then you go, okay, well, I've got a walking dragon, just don't call him a Dragonborn. Sweet. And that kind of fluff change, but it was a scary time, and like so I think having that crunch, having that fluff difference, is that what kind of like kept you guys feeling all right about it, or was there still like a trepidation?
Well, Wizards used to have a continuity editor, Matt Cernett, so it was his job to keep all the lore of Dungeons and Dragons collated, consistent, etc. He no longer works for them, but he did make some statements about the wiki a few years back, and basically said, "Don't believe everything you read."
Oh, okay. Well, so is it that way because it's kind of like Games Workshop in the sense of everything's canon until it's not?
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is, we kind of get that though as D&D players. It's like, surely, like, because you said earlier about, like, you know, everything before the 2014 Player's Handbook is now not canon. Of course it's not, because they've started a new edition, they have to change things. Of course we know that, and it's the same with Games Workshop, you know, they bring out a new book, and you're like, hang on a minute, but Horus is dead! Like, yeah, everything isn't canon until it's not. It's like, you know, that's the point of story, is that it twists, it changes, it you know, and so, okay, yeah, if they turn around and say, don't believe everything you read, alright, cool. Surely that's still, it was written down though, we should have a record of that.
Like, I'm still a contributor to the Lexicanum wiki for Warhammer as well. I recently wrote an article on a Warhammer World exclusive book, which was a massive fight between the entire Ultramarines chapter and a huge force of Cornate invaders on the world of Sanctoria, which is the...
Alex, who sits here, by the way, somewhere down in Falmouth, he's just got an erection. It's just like, he's a huge, like, lore fan. Carry on.
That's, like, the most outermost planet of Ultramar.
Yeah.
And has a massive cathedral dedicated to Robotic Illiman in there. And none of that has ever been referenced ever since.
No, but I mean, yeah, it's those small little things that keep us wondering. But sometimes, though, when it comes to story writing, it's the mystery of something that keeps people going, well, I want to know more about that, so I want to then buy the next book, or I want to then...
The diorama that they made at Warhammer World for that book is still there.
So they've literally gone, this exists, but we're never telling you anything about it. But that's like, you know, unmasking Boba Fett. That's like, you know, here's this amazing cool bounty hunter in Empire Strikes Back, that's all you're getting.
Yeah.
And you're like, I love it. And I'm going to be in for the next one, and yeah, you know, it's one of those things. It's so I guess the wiki is obviously like a big part of your life, and that must consume so much time.
It used to. I am more on the marketing side of it now.
Yeah.
I would love to contribute more, but my life is busy.
Life gets in the way.
Yeah.
It really does.
And I should have said this right at the beginning of us talking about the wiki. If ever I'm talking about it being mine or referring to myself as a singular pronoun, ignore that. It's a team effort.
Yeah, and actually, because one of my next questions is, there is a team. There is not just you. There is actually like a big group of people that contribute to this. And
but it's actually not that big.
Is it not?
Our core team is only about 11 people.
Oh, that's big to me. I mean, this whole business is one. And then I've got friends who come in and are luckily starting to pick up the slack and take on different things, which I'm like, God, I'm so grateful for that. Like, having, like, a few other people to, like, help out. I'm like, oh, my God, it's finally not all on me anymore. Because...
I think we just hit 54,000 articles.
Wow! Yeah, I'd be say if that was just you, that would be fucking impressive.
Yeah, but it could not have been done without everyone else who's helped out.
And that's amazing, and I suppose they're from all over the world.
Yeah.
So, like, because it's not just a Cornwall-based thing, it is, you know, the case that, like, because I've seen a lot of, like, the contribution on those pages, and again, you should all go check it out, is that, you know, it does take a lot of people to absorb that amount of content and then put it out. So do you guys, like, set apart different things? Go, right, okay, you're reading this book, I'll read this book.
We're not that organised, no. We have a project that we collectively decide on.
Yeah.
And then we will focus the majority of our efforts on the content that project covers.
And that way, also, if you've got multiple people on it, it's not just one person who then might get something wrong. Somebody else can then fact check them and then come in and, yeah, that's awesome.
And we'll still get randomers coming in who don't have an account, and they'll make minor edits, and we have to make sure none of those are...
Incorrect, because that's what a wiki is, you know, it's a self-editing website where people can come in and go, oh, actually...
And we got a ton of people who came in after Baldur's Gate 3 came out. So
actually, the fallout of Baldur's Gate 3, because such, like... And I will straight up admit now, I have not had a chance to play it yet.
Neither have I. I've got it. I haven't played it yet.
My computer will die if I put it on there, so I just don't... And I need this computer to work. And it's interesting because... I've seen so much content. I mean, Richard, who sponsors a lot of our shows, you know, has a 3D printing company. The amount of Asterion statues that he's like printing, because obviously fanfare. I mean, who wouldn't? Like, you know, it's you know, guys are amazing. But yeah, like to hear and to see that people are like, this is the most Dungeons and Dragons game that has ever come out without playing Dungeons and Dragons. when you're still playing Dungeons and Dragons, and like apparently the feel for it is still very much like this amazing game. So obviously like
again, Larian used the wiki.
And I was about to say like like Larian Studios are obviously like huge, especially now. And what I love is that it seems to have brought more people to the hobby.
Yes,
isn't that incredible?
It is.
That like a video game like Baldur's Gate, where I mean. Do you remember Neverwinter Nights?
Yeah,
I've got it in the house, and like every now and again I play it, and I'm like trying to read it, like what? And just watching this massive beholder with these tiny ice blocks.
A couple of days ago, it was actually the anniversary of the release of Neverwinter Nights 2.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah. So you're playing through Neverwinter Nights, and then being that original, like especially that like PS2 era graphics of like you know. Slightly rounded edges, but most of them are still sharp and stuff like that. And like
the old Aurora engine.
Yeah, exactly that. And I remember my kids were like, "Oh, I don't like this. I don't like the graphics on it. No." And I was like, "Man, this is great. This is really, really good." But then we take like Baldur's Gate 3, and we talk about bringing people into the fandom. I think years ago, that game was so niche, like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights. Like you had to be into the Forgotten Realms to like want to play those games.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Really?
The original Baldur's Gate games were massive impacts on the CRPG genre.
Oh, cool.
And the tool set for Neverwinter Nights, the original Neverwinter Nights, was also a huge thing. Because it allowed you to make your own games, essentially.
So, and I suppose that's the side of it that I never got to see, because I did only view them as like, oh, it's D&D, I don't really play D&D, so I'm not going to play those games. And then I played Neverwinter Nights, I was like, okay, well, this is fine. And I saw it from the other side, where it was like, people wouldn't play those games because they weren't into D&D, but now, you look at Baldur's Gate 3, and you're like, oh, I want to play as a sexy-looking tiefling. Yeah. And let's face it, everybody does at some point. And the amount of people, like, we see it at Happy Piranha, where we both do stuff out of Happy Piranha, and we'll actually talk about that in a little bit. But, like, the amount of people that I've seen come to our D&D intro sessions, and I don't know if you've seen it with Wizards and Warlords yet, that have gone, oh, I played Baldur's Gate 3.
I have.
Yeah, and they've only played Baldur's Gate 3, but now they're like, but now I want more. And they've got that vampire bite. And it's just like, Faerun has got them. You're like, come on. Come sling some dice with us.
I want to throw my healing potion at him, and that should heal him, right? Because that's how it works in Baldur's Gate.
Yeah. It's interesting, because then I divert to Starfinder, where you can put a healing serum into it and inject a gun and like, tink! So it's like, literally like, our players like are there right now on the table. One of them has an injector with healing serums in it, because like at least they can heal from a distance. But yeah, and I love that, one, that you've been referenced by Larion, and the fact that they're using the wiki to then build on two already successful games to what has to be the most successful Dungeons and Dragons game of all time. It's huge. People are on like their several playthroughs of it. They are just constantly absorbing it again and again and again, and it's absolutely incredible. But actually, I'm going to I won't digress to Wizards and Warlords yet, because actually I want to ask about your other members of staff. Because actually, it's now not just the Forgotten Realms Wiki, is it?
We are part of a family of D&D setting wikis now, as members of the Forgotten Realms Wiki staff have adopted, like I did, other setting wikis. Which,
for anybody who doesn't necessarily know, people might think, oh, D&D, well, it must all be in the same place and that's it. No, it's not. So, like, there's different worlds that it can be set on, because it can be set anywhere in your mind.
Multiverse.
But it is a massive multiverse of different planets. So, when we talk about the Forgotten Realms, we're looking at, like, places like Tamriel, and it is Tamriel, isn't it? Toril, Tamriel, Skyrim. Fucking, how did that happen? It's my crossover with Dragonborn, that's the problem. And there are worlds like Kryn, which is obviously like where Dragonlance is set, and like I'm currently playing through a Dragonlance campaign as a player, and then they've got things like Eberron, which is like your steampunk meets
Magic Punk.
Yeah, Magic Punk actually is the better description for it, because it's its actual description. As well as things like Greyhawk as well.
Yeah, Oath.
Yep, and so there are different worlds that things are set on, and that's also why we see people who are creating third-party content then create their own worlds and their own campaign settings. So, but the official ones that have come out with module books like Ghost of Salt Marshes, Greyhawk, and Oath, and then you've got obviously Dragonlance for Kryn, and obviously the Forgotten Realms, which is the one that is favoured by Wizards, and they have gone.
Well, it's not just Wizards. They do polls every year, and the Forgotten Realms is always the most popular setting. It's getting closer every time,
Because the back of the DMG this time, we're getting a map of Greyhawk, and I was like, oh shit, are we getting everything set here now? But I actually really like the new DMG, and we'll probably talk new D&D in a little bit, but they actually put the settings for everything in there, and that was really nice. So what are the other settings then? Obviously, we've mentioned them a few times, but like I might have missed a few. Like
so there's also Dark Sun, which is the grimdark setting. I don't think Wizards of the Coast are ready to really touch that in new D&D. But back in the day, it was the 40k of D&D essentially, without the science fiction. There's Birthright.
Which one's that?
That was a realm building game in D&D.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
You would set up your own little fiefdom with guilds and castles, and then you could. Your main characters all had a little bit of God's blood in them.
Oh, cool.
So you had powers you could draw upon and could use them when you were actually rolling the dice as you would in a regular D&D
I like
campaign.
that. That sounds great.
I really liked
that. Sounds very good.
Yeah. But they haven't done anything with that since 2nd edition.
That's probably why I don't know that much about it.
There's also Ravenloft, obviously.
Yeah, that classic demi-plane of... favourite vampires. Home.
And so many more Dark Lords.
Yes.
Most of which came back for 5e in the Van Richten's book, but not all of them the same.
No, but again, everything's canon until it's not.
Indeed, indeed. Then there's Mystara.
Ooh, which one's that?
So that one, I believe, was based on Dave Arneson's original Blackmoor setting.
Oh, cool. That's very cool.
And it had like little sub-settings like Red Steel and Savage Coast.
Oh. I've heard the names, but I haven't delved into that one either. It's but that's cool that you guys have like all of these like different wikis that you are now adopting and going, you know, and it's not just like, I assume it's not just like a crapshoot of going, right, we've got one, let's start doing that. I'm assuming somebody's gone, I really love this setting, I would like to do this one.
Yeah, I mean, we still mostly concentrate on the Forgotten Realms, because although we've been doing it for 20 years, there's still so much more to add.
Yeah, and there's more coming out.
Yeah.
Tons more.
Like I say, back in 1983, when Ed Greenwood submitted his first article to Dragon magazine, that was the first published iteration of the Forgotten Realms.
And that is where it quite literally started, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
Dragon magazine, and it was
So we've got over 40 years of content to cover.
Wow.
And
Halfway through it yet?
we've got the most pertinent points down.
Good. Well, I mean, and it's still amazing that, like, again, like archiving all of this stuff to try and make it usable for people to then like draw upon for their own worlds, for their own gameplay. I mean, I'm going to take it back to Wizards saying, well, don't believe everything you read. At least it's there. And like you go, well, actually, you know, this was from this one, this was from this one, and then you take and pick what you want for D&D, and you go, well, I do like this lore, I do like this twist on it, I like this side of it, I like this bit of it, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that. And actually, something that I employ in all of my campaigns that I fully endorse everybody else to do, and you will probably cringe at this, plagiarize the shit out of the things you love, because if your player is really into the Grimdark. And really into 40k, fucking play on that. Like, absolutely, go absorb some lore and then try and find a way to put that aesthetic, at least, into your campaign for that player. And it doesn't have to be all about that player, but just a little bit of it here and there. Fucking hell yeah, plagiarise the shit out of something. And you guys are giving people the tools to go, oh, this Drist bit, and him working with Jarlaxle, and now I'm playing in Waterdeep. Why don't I have Drist come into Waterdeep? Because they never fucking mention that, do they?
I mentioned one thing. In Honor Among Thieves, going back to that, the character of Zenk, the paladin, was originally going to be Drizzt Do'Urden.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, now if you get that wrong, bro, that's a big fandom you're pissing off.
Yes,
that's
exactly. That's pretty much why they changed it to Zenk.
Yeah, that's you got to get that right. You got to get that really right.
When they went down into the Underdark, they were originally going to be going to Menza Baranzan.
Really? Fucking hell, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a change.
We still don't know why they put the Red Dragon in the location where they put him, because originally he comes from Gracklestug, the Duergar city.
Yeah.
But he ended up in an abandoned gnome city instead.
Yeah, you raised a good point that I hadn't thought about. But it's like...
All of that is related to the changes that they had to make to the script while it was in production, because they had to move away from Menzo Baranzan and Dristawerden because of potential backlash over Drow.
And that is the other thing, is backlash over, as we are now calling the species, and stuff like that. And obviously, like, one of the things that happened with the OGL was them going, oh, well, what we want to do is we just want to make sure that everybody's safe. And I'm going to put a little sigh and a tut in there, because they were like, oh, what we don't want is people to create content that could be offensive. You were the main culprits of it.
Yeah.
Like, you fucked up. Nobody else did. And it's like, things like that are always going to happen. We are always going to find that, 20 years down the line, we're going to go, actually, you know what? Maybe we didn't think about this. Maybe we didn't think about that. Maybe we didn't consider this, and now the times have changed. Okay, well, let's go back and say, maybe we'll change something. Which is why we're looking at species instead of race, why we're looking at different attributes for different races and species.
So Bob Salvatore, the author of the Driss books, he's come out with a concept for the Drow that Wizards of the Coast appear to be using moving forward.
Yeah.
He's splitting the Drow into 3 cultures.
Okay.
So you've got the Uda Drow, which is like the Lolthite ones.
Yeah. God, I love Lolth. I don't know why I'm such a simp for her. Really am.
I loved her appearance in Lolth's Warrior, because she's in it.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm terrified of spiders, and yet I'm just like, if I'm gonna go, all right. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
But then you've got 2 other cultures, the Avon Drow and the one that hasn't been written about yet.
The aforementioned unnamed Drow.
Yeah, so the Avon Drow live up in the North Pole of Truro. They've got their own city, which is actually built out of a glacier, which is the tomb of a Wind Duke of Aqua.
That's very cool.
And it's heated by these underground radioactive crystals. So it's a comfortable climate.
Yeah.
And then magic works differently up there as well because of the weirdness about the North Pole.
Yeah.
And then you've got this third Drow culture who lives down in Chult, in like a secluded jungle village, where they have houses that are made out of magical darkness, so their eyes don't sting in the sunlight.
That's very cool. But I mean, and that's the thing is like, obviously we had this like Underdark, and it was like, right, all Drow from there. And you're like, all right, cool, I get it, like spider tunnels and stuff. And that was kind of the original point. It was like, that's where the spiders are, that's where the darkened creatures are. They have this aversion to sunlight. And yeah, and it kind of like became a bit more about cultural heritage than it did about this original concept of spiders and stuff like that. And I think that's where the issues were. And that must be hard to get that right for the wiki. To like be able to like absorb all of the content from 40 years ago and then try and go, well, actually, no, this is what was said. We can't, there's no beating around the bush there. This is what everything is. This is how it's progressed. This is how it's gone. And
it's not just Drow either.
No.
Eladrin have changed with every edition as well, and it's been a real pain in the bum to try and collate all of that lore in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they started off as extraplanar beings, then they became a type of high elf. Now they're their own type of species of Fey elves.
Yeah. Eladrin, I always found them interesting yet confusing. I was always just like, what are you? But that is it, because they never really have
It's not just them either. The Shadakai, they've had changes with every edition.
Yeah, and again, everything's canon until it's not really, and it's just changing it for what it fits. Because obviously then we look at like the mainstream of Dungeons and Dragons and how like in recent years, and we're talking the past 10 years realistically, this real resurgence of like, one, it being out there and available as content to view. Because beforehand, like way before I was playing it, I would have had to have been invited to a group to then even try it out and go, And for years I was like, what is Dungeons and Dragons? Like, well, I don't really want to be that nerd. And I had this like preconception of it, and then obviously, there were already people streaming, but then Crit Role hits the big thing, and that's obviously like this huge thing where people are like, oh, they're just adults playing pretend. And it is what it is. We are playing pretend.
Even before Crit Role, you had like porn stars and celebrities coming out and saying that they played D&D.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is it like it's this improv game of sitting around with your friends and playing characters, and to have then somebody like, well, a group like Crit Roll, which then obviously there are people before them and there were people after them, and obviously they're still massive. They've just hit their 10-year anniversary, and you know, to like really put a push on like bringing people to the game from outside, whereas like I think I would have eventually got there by association and by like starting with Warhammer, going to Star Wars, and doing all of these like the Star Wars role-playing games, where I probably would have been like first in if it hadn't been for in 2017 when Starfinder came out, and I was like, somebody's like, just come play it. And I was like, oh okay. Then I was like, oh my god, what have I been missing? And that's when my contact started. But like I've digressed away from the whole point completely, because this is how easy it is to do this with D&D. It's just a tangent after a tangent after a tangent.
Yep.
With obviously the staff that you've got and the new wikis, and you say about these projects, do you still all come together to try and do one project in the year, and is that across all of the wikis, or is that just now with the Forgotten Realms or...
So, like I say, we do focus more on the Forgotten Realms wiki than the other ones.
Yeah.
Just because of the dearth of content. But our focus when we make a decision on the project is mostly for the Forgotten Realms wiki rather than the other ones, because there's a lot more base building that needs to be done on the other wikis. You've got to get the core stuff down.
There's also more content for the Forgotten Realms out there.
There is.
Especially now that people are playing in the 5e Forgotten Realms, and that is the majority of the source books. So I imagine more people will come to the Forgotten Realms wiki to be like, oh, we've got this NPC, who's that? And then they'll go, Tasha. And then you're like, ah, here's all our stuff on Tasha. And actually...
do you mean Igwilv or Zyblina?
And this is where I'm going to get to next. And it's like, because I have this conversation about Fizban and with Bahamut every single time. And I'm like, I fucking love the Platinum Dragon. So a person we did an interview with recently called Lauren, she is from London, and she's really into Tudor history, but she's also really into D&D, and she is doing a meld up of creating what's now an agnostic game rather than just D&D, but started with it being 5e related, and taking things like Anne Boleyn being this like main person, this like character that you have to go and save, and then having like Henry VIII because he was a party boy being like a bard, and then like giving them all classes and stuff like that, and taking real Tudor history and then like assimilating it into Dungeons and Dragons. And like actually like, we talk about everything we talked about before, and it crosses over so well. So we can talk about like history, and we talk about
I really enjoyed My Lady Jane.
Yeah,
it was a good show,
and it's
I assume the books are good as well, otherwise they wouldn't have made a show out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think like, it's a really poignant thing that like it's interesting that more than one person is doing it. We spoke about life getting in the way of a lot of things, and how like you have obviously a team of people that all come together to do the Forgotten Realms and to do the other wikis, and that's because I know that you run Wizards and Warlords, which what is Wizards and Warlords?
So Wizards and Warlords is Cornwall's oldest TTRPG group. At one point it was also by far the largest. Of course then the pandemic hit and people started moving into more online games.
Yes.
But we are growing again now.
Good.
We've got 5 tables on Fridays, and we're about to start our second on Wednesdays.
Nice.
And we're also in talks with Happy Piranha to start Adventurers League.
Yes. It's something that like Adventures League is always interesting to me, but it's something that I could never have the time to run. I'm just like, which I think we spoke about. I was like, all you, buddy.
Yeah.
you crack on. Yeah. So Wizards and Warlords, it is a social club. It is basically a group where people can come play some Dungeons and Dragons, some Pathfinder, some TTRPGs, because it's not just Dungeons and Dragons.
No, it's not.
And we'll talk about more of the systems in a little bit, especially because now that you've been chatting to Nathan.
Yeah.
And we'll chat about that in a bit. And it's for the public. And it's run out of Happy Piranha in Truro, which obviously their interview came out today. I think it was came out this morning. I think I had it scheduled for. For those of you who are in Cornwall and are like, hey, I want to play some D&D. Wizards and Warlords, Matt is running this group where you have, like you said, 5 tables on the Friday at the moment. You've got 2 tables a second table starting up on a Wednesday.
Yeah, starting next week, hopefully.
Is that looking to grow more? Is it a case of like, do people need to already be in a group? Can they come along and then join a group?
They're welcome to come along. If we have a DM who is willing to accommodate them, they can join up whenever.
Yeah.
We have a sort of stock of DMs. some of whom
Release them from the pen.
Yeah.
Out you come.
Some of whom have very specific games they want to play. Others are a bit more casual about it.
Yeah.
And like they range from like 15 years old all the way up to their late 50s.
And that's the other thing is you do have a youth group as part
Yeah.
of it as well, which is what I thought is really, really awesome because I know that one of my children is in a tabletop club at his school on on a Wednesday, but like he can't get to a table yet. He's still just painting at the moment in that club because there's just not enough DMs to run it. But the fact that like you are running like this like youth group where you've got like 15 up, and they can come along and play Dungeons and Dragons. Not only get to play Dungeons and Dragons in a space like Happy Piranha where like they've really starting to put the effort. Well, they have been putting the effort into for years to build the cafe, which. Space to play D&D in Truro has become an interesting thing. And I'm not going to go into the politics of all the different places because that's not what we're about here. And hopefully I'll get to speak to those guys as well. We work a lot with Happy Piranha, you and I. And we do a lot of stuff because we both work out of there in terms of doing D&D related stuff. I now run a podcast from there and you do the Wizards and Warlords, which is great because we're hopefully building on this community of like giving people access to something that they will end up playing for life and making friends for life. Because you say actually...
We've got several couples who've gotten married and
who've met through D&D.
Yeah.
And it's like you said actually about your friend who was running the first game that you played back in 98. Was it 98 you said?
It was actually 2000. I started playing Baldur's Gate.
That was it. I was listening, I promise. And yeah, the fact that you're still in contact with them 20 years later, and it's just like the friends that I
250 miles away.
Yeah, but it's like the friends that you make playing D&D. It's surprising, like how much of a close bond you'll actually make with them. It's very strange because, like, again, I put it off for years, and yet it was Jack who sits here and plays with me during Starfinder. Who was eventually like, "Look, do you think you could GM something?" And I was like, I don't know, it seems like a lot of work. And then I listened to a few other podcasts. I was like, oh, I could fucking do this.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Absorb some content and you'll be able to do it. And we started playing together. I would have him at every table I ever ran because he brought me into something that, like, it's not just playing a game, is it? Like, we end up with real emotions at a table where you can sort of leave it all there. And granted, humans are humans and we're always going to, like, dive deeper into emotion and stuff like that, but like the fact that we play these games with these fictional characters, but the emotion that you feel is real.
Absolutely.
It is like a strange therapy that when you go through that with a group of people and then you find yourself like tearing up at a table and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
So I mentioned couples who got married. One of them, Nikki and Nathan, very recently tied the knot. Nikki's character was on my table. She was playing a Tabaxi Warlock. She was secretly working for the BBEG because he was her patron.
Yeah.
But at one point, they were in Flan in the Moonsea of the Forgotten Realms, and a shadow killed her character. She literally had to leave the building, call up her best mate, and cry about it.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
Like, so when you get like really attached to a character and you're like, oh, and I think it's one thing as well as like a DM, like I would never go out of my way to like actively kill off a player unless the person they were fighting was like actively, and it's this hard thing, especially as friends around a table. And, like I have to say to them, I was like, just so you're aware guys, there is a chance you could die in this encounter. Yeah. I have to tell them beforehand because I'm like, I'm not trying to get you. This character is going to try and get you.
I've got a private game on Tuesdays, which is 20th level.
That's high.
With epic boons as well.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
And it's a deadly game.
Yeah, as it should be at that level.
Yeah.
Because I joke about this all the time when I'm a player. It's like you can't die in D&D, and I sort of like to DM bait when I say that because you can die in it realistically, but there's also you can be brought back, whatever. But you do get emotionally attached to these characters, and like you can have an argument as characters, and at the end you're like, oh, I'm really sorry and stuff like that, and you have to like, I always feel bad, and I'm just like, have to then be like, look, just you aware, it's not me, that is my character, I'm just making sure, just check in with your friends if you do end up in that situation, but otherwise, like, you'll have these beautiful moments, and you'll make these beautiful bonds with people that is so unlike anything else I've ever experienced, and like, so like, it's nice to hear that at Wizards and Warlords, you've actually got that is happening, and like
Yeah.
you've got people who are like getting married because they've met through Dungeons and Dragons and through TTRPGs. But it's not just Dungeons and Dragons at Wizards and Warlords, is it?
No, it's not.
So I know that Nathan's recently coming in to then teach some things and play
We
some
are
games.
starting our first game of the Witcher RPG tonight.
So cool. So cool.
We had our session 0 last week. We've got quite a diverse range of characters as well. We've got a craftsman, a doctor, a sort of rake, and my character who's a doctor, trained at
Nice.
Oxenfurt.
That's very, very cool. And I know that, like, obviously, like, your knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons is one thing. I know that Josh is running Pathfinder, which I have a mass love for Pathfinder 2e. Obviously, Nathan's starting to run The Witcher, but there are other games like Alien and Transformers, and, like, basically, if you can think of an RPG, you guys are a space too.
Dan's running Call of Cthulhu.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool and very, very deadly. Where did Wizards and Warlords start, though?
So, we started off at tags.
Yes.
However, 6 members of tags did not like their very strict rules.
Well, they were very much like, we're wargamers, that's it, nothing else, and then went from there.
And they had very stringent WYSIWYG policies as well. So
Yeah.
what you see is what you get. If your model doesn't have the gear that they...
I've met a lot of wargamers players, especially back in the day, like early Necromunda, that were like, basically start gluing loads of weapons to your mini. But yeah, so it started at tags.
So these 6 people, Dave, who's no longer with us, Barry, John, Andrew, Gordon, and Kelly, they moved to the Shortlands End Community Centre.
Yeah.
And they started doing other things. They played Malifaux, which wasn't currently being played at tags, although it is now.
Yeah.
They played RPGs, they played board games, and then because Dave and Andrew worked for Volunteer Cornwall, they worked out a deal with them to use Heron House, which used to be the Volunteer Cornwall HQ. And they moved there, and the community just exploded.
Nice.
We got a ton of new people, including myself and my then girlfriend, who joined up and started running a plethora of different stuff.
Yeah, and obviously from there on in, it carried on, and I know that, like, obviously, like, as Truro and Cornwall changes, and obviously shops change and everything like that, obviously it moves to different places, but it's managed to keep going. So obviously then the pandemic hit, which was a huge blow for any social club. Was just like, okay, well, I guess we're all on hiatus. Were you able to, like, obviously you were able to keep it going after it, but did you guys stay going during the pandemic? Did you keep online games?
Yeah, we really focused in on our Discord server, which we'd just been using to arrange games beforehand.
Is that still going?
Yeah.
Is that a public forum thing that we'll put a link for in the description?
I can give you an invite link. It will expire though.
Okay, we won't put that in, but we'll do other social things where they can then ask you and
I'll
stuff.
give you the link to our Facebook page where you can request an invite.
That's fine, because I'll talk about Facebook in a minute. So the pandemic hits, and then you started going to heavy onto the Discord server.
Yes. My personal group that I was playing before lockdown started, we tried to get a few sessions in. We weren't very successful because people were moving away and mixing up schedules, and it was a palaver. But we did start some new games even while we were on lockdown.
Yeah.
And they were very fun games.
Yeah, and what's nice to see is that, like, obviously, lockdown was either a maker or breaker for a lot of different social clubs. And I know that with I stream with Band of Badgers, who's a southeast streaming channel, but they started off as a social club. They played D&D and board games in a manor house in the southeast, and then when the pandemic hit, they moved their games online, and then they started streaming them, and then they were like, well, why don't we go worldwide when we start bringing in American players, other UK players, stuff like that. And it was really nice to see that, like, some groups really kind of like picked up and then stayed to an online thing, or were able to then go, well, we've still got people playing, now we can get back together, we're back together again, and Wizards and Warlords carries on. And so when did you take over Wizards and Warlords? When was it that you...
It was about 2015, I believe.
Yeah, awesome. So you've actually been running it for quite some time now. Nice.
I've still got my original membership card from
Really?
when I first joined up in my wallet.
Frame it. You should have that on a wall. Don't need a wallet where it's going to get destroyed. Put it in a little picture frame. Have it on your wall, or get it set in resin, like Pokemon cards. Get it like evaluated and like have it as a chain that you can wear around your neck when you get into boxing. Because that seems like a thing to do with a Pokemon card.
But yeah, I became chairman in 2015. That was while we were operating out of Central Bar.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah.
Which tags were also operating out of at the same time.
Because you guys did share spaces for quite some time.
We did.
Because I think I remember there was like Basbo, Wizards and Warlords might have been there as well at the same time.
It wasn't Basbo's, but we were with Tabletop Workshop together.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. At Vaughn's place. So yeah, you've been running that since 2015 and the wiki. You've been quite a busy boy, really.
Yeah.
It's that's quite something. So with Wizards and Warlords, how do people get in touch? And you know, I assume that you are open to basically anybody. There's no like There's no like basically like no, we're not having any. I would assume not in today's like climate.
It's your conduct once you join up that will decide whether you get to keep coming or not.
and I think that is completely it, and it's something that I've spoken to about with several different groups, and with like I have it here in the studio. It's like, you know, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Just like be accepting, understand that you're not the only human in the world, and let's just have some fun, because these games are escapism, and they are such a champion of something that you and I both chatted about like previous to this today, with like not just like the LGBTQ community and right
People on the autism spectrum.
so many spectrums, like me with mental health. Like my PTSD is like this past week I've been a stress head, and like even my players like, you're all right. I'm like, I don't know. But like I jump into a game and I'm gone. I'm like, you know, I'm absolutely escaped from me, and I'm now back into these. So actually I know full well that you guys are very inclusive, because I've seen firsthand how inclusive you guys are, and it's definitely worth mentioning that, like, you know, don't be scared of going into Wizards and Warlords. Go into Happy Piranha. Go chat to Matt. Go chat to you know, part of the Wizards and Warlords crews. If you are like, oh, you know, I'm nervous or I'm anxious, or you know, I have so many different things going on in my life, but actually I would like to try these games. Just turn up. You will find a huge group of lovely people who are, I think, the tabletop community, especially within TTRPGs, is the most acknowledging and accepting group of people in the world. I think that it is so amazing to see that everyone is like, you know what? Yeah, you're all good. You're here to play a character.
Yeah. I would say that is true, but places like RPG horror stories also exist.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you are going to find people. You can't please every human. You can't always be like, you know, not everyone's always going to get on. But like, I think like having a club like yours where you are inclusive of people and you are thoughtful of people's issues means that people get to have a better time.
Yeah, and when the bad eggs do crop up, as I say, we deal with them.
Exactly, and it's a case of like, you know, it's not just like a you know, that's it, you're out. So have a conversation with somebody. Don't just like, and we've heard horror stories in the local area, which we're not going to get into right now. But you know, people just being like, nope, done, you're out, and you're like, give them a conversation, like chat to people. Like you can't just exclude people from it because they don't fit your thoughts. Like that's not how this works.
Yeah,
we're trying to build a community. You can't build a community by excluding people from it. And yeah, it takes understanding.
When they commit crimes.
That's a deal. Yeah. At that point, you're like, well, you know, and just I think that Wizards and Warlords, especially in the Happy Piranha space, and with, you know, the people that are around, are very inclusive, and they are very understanding of everyone being different, and I fucking love that. It is something that I adore about the community that hopefully both yourself, Happy Piranha, myself, and other people that are working out of there to do all of this are hopefully building on. And you know, it's absolutely incredible. What are the best ways for people to get in touch with Wizards and Warlords and to come and try it out?
Well, our Facebook page has all of our contact details on it.
Yeah, I'll link that below.
You can message us to request an invite to our Discord server.
Yeah,
where you can talk with us directly. And yeah, there's an email, which don't check very often. Probably should do more.
Emails are hard, people. Leave us alone.
There's even a phone number. So if
Brave.
yeah. If you need to chat in person, then yeah.
But actually, I think that's something is like everybody is, because I say brave because I don't like picking up the phone. That's something I don't do. But other people only like to communicate via phone. They don't like to text, or they don't like to. And the fact that you're offering that availability to that. Yeah. What I will do is I will put a link to the Facebook in the description below. Yeah. That way, should anybody in Cornwall wanting to try out a TTRPG or to find a space to run a game or anything that Wizards and Warlords can offer, then hopefully they can get in touch with you and you guys can decide if it's the right thing for you and go meet Matt, and who is just this lovely guy who has a load of lovely people around him at Wizards and Warlords that you should get involved with, and you should go check out the club even once. Like everybody in their life should play D&D or TTRPG once.
100%.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people play it once and then go, oh, oh, that tickled an itch, didn't it? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, please go check out Wizards and Warlords because it's nice to actually have these clubs around and to be able to have access to them, because we are in Cornwall where everything is 8 miles away from each other. Mm-hmm. Everything is so far away that like people in Falmouth might not know about Wizards and Warlords. People in Bodmin might be like, oh, I really want to play, but I don't have access to anything. Come down, just hop onto that Facebook group, hop onto Happy Piranha's website, get chatting to Matt, get chatting to the guys there, and just get a game in, because chances are you won't ever look back again. It's absolutely incredible. Matt, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to chat to you. We will make sure, when this goes out, to put all of those links into the description below. We don't know when this is coming out, because there are so many in the interview things that I'm kind of just putting them onto the schedule and we'll go, but it should be usually weekly on a Wednesday. So this should be out soon enough for you, and for people out there, it's out the day that you're watching this. Yeah, thank you so much, Matt, and hopefully, if we can even get one person into Wizards and Warlords, we've won. Yeah. Thank you so much. Guys, hit like, hit subscribe, do all those usual things that mean the world to us. Thank you so much. May those dice gods be ever in your favour. We'll see you around.